we move on to Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, a game that I've been saving until I reviewed the first 3 Sly Cooper games.
I picked up a PS3 on June 21st, the day before my 100th review, as a way to celebrate that milestone, and even though it came with Uncharted 3, I picked up Sly 4 as my first game for it. Even though I did have a PS3 about 3 years ago, I sold it because I wasn't using it. I did do the introductory level for Sly 4, but I didn't go any further, as looking at my incomplete Sly collection for the PS2, it made me want the third one to complete it. So after heading down to a store that accepts PS2 games as trade-ins, I traded in the first 2 Sly games for a copy of the Sly collection. I do plan on reviewing the Ratchet & Clank series too, I just need to get them first. So after 2 weeks of waiting, I finally allowed myself to play Sly Cooper Thieves in Time.
Yeah, I pretty much did the reviews for the first 3 Sly Cooper games in the first week of this month. I just had a lot of free time.
After the very disappointing Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves, which was pretty much a middle finger from Sucker Punch so they could get to work on Infamous, the Sly series wouldn't see a new game until February 5th, 2013, which is 8 years later. I have a rule of thumb that I go by. If a game doesn't get a sequel to its main series after 4 years, that series is as good as dead. And at that point, I just hoped that the characters would make a cameo somewhere. In comes Sanzaro Games, like an angel descending from heaven, and they announced that they were going to make a 4th Sly Cooper game.
It was like the second coming. An amazing game series was coming back, and then I took a look at what Sanzaro did in the past. Needless to say, I thought Sly was pretty screwed.
Sanzaro doesn't really have a successful track record. While their previous games never went below a 6 out of 10, they never really got anything above 6 out of 10 either. They pretty much made mediocre games. Yeah, Sanzaro put together the Sly collection, but those games weren't their work. They just cleaned it up and repolished them for a high-definition re-release, and added the motion sensor minigames. So I thought, great, now this will be the definitive nail in Sly's coffin. I have never been so happy to be so wrong in my life. Sly 4 was a success, but it wasn't marketed heavily, and Sanzaro always wanted to make a Sly game, so they made a game engine for it, showed it off to Sony Computer Entertainment, who greenlit the game for development.
Sucker Punch was just so impressed with the game that they were very happy to hand over the reins of the Sly Cooper series over to Sanzaro. You know you did a good job when the original creators are impressed with your work.
The graphics are really good, and not just because the game is on PlayStation 3. Sanzaro went with a different art style altogether. They went with a smoother, sleeker look and more detailed art style for the characters, giving them a more cartoon look rather than a comic book look. And speaking of cartoon, the cutscenes are actually animated instead of still shots that the previous installments had. The in-game cutscenes are better too. The characters move very fluidly and more naturally and just don't quickly and stiffly move from one position to the next, allowing for a much wider range of movements and emotions similar to what the Ratchet and Jack series had in terms of animation. And the new art style reflects in the level design, as the environments look less exaggerated and more realistic, at least for Sly Cooper standards.
This graphical overhaul is what the Sly Cooper series needed, and is probably what the previous game should have been like. So ask yourself, would you rather see a character move like an actual person, or like a robot?
It's good to see overlap and follow-through, animation techniques that are used to give characters a sense of physics. Sanzaro did a good job following the 12 basic principles of animation for this game, which gives the world more life and makes it more believable. The music is pretty good, fitting the time periods where you travel to. The voice acting is top-notch, the best out of the series. Kevin Miller, Matt Olson, and Chris Murphy reprise their roles as Sly, Bentley, and Murray, and they do a perfect job in this game, probably because they had a better voice director and the lines that they were given are so much better written than the last ones. And once again, Carmelita has a different voice actress, this time played by Grey DeLisle, one of the most well-known voice actresses out there, voicing characters like Mandy from The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Sam Manson from Danny Phantom, and Kitty Caswell from Tough Puppy, just to name a few.
Although I can't help but hear that annoying parrot's voice from that really annoying My Gym Partner's a Monkey cartoon every time Carmelita talks.
But Grey DeLisle does do a good Spanish accent, and it's at least consistent, unlike Sly 3 where her accent varied between American, Russian, and Spanish. Stephen J. Blum, who is most famous for voicing Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop, voices Ryoichi Cooper. Sam Riegel, who voiced Donatello, my favorite Ninja Turtle, from the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, voices Tennessee Kid Cooper. Jess Harnell, who did Wacko from Animaniacs, does a couple of the voices, and Nolan North, the voice actor for Deadpool and Drake from Uncharted, is the villain. For me, this comes off as a surprise, as when I look up the voice actors in a video game, it's usually people that I've never heard of. so it's great to see that they got some A-list voice actors. Well, at least ones that I know of.
I'll be honest, there's times where I swear that I'm living under a rock because I feel I should know who these voice actors are.
The levels are enormous in size and retain that open-world jungle gym feel where you can go almost anywhere. It's nice to see these massive levels return, especially since the worlds in Sly 3 were about half the size of the ones from Sly 2, and the worlds in Sly 4 are twice as big as Sly 2 as they should be since this game is on a Blu-ray. And the game is broken up into missions like the previous two, but the missions are fewer in favor of longer ones, which I'm perfectly fine with. Sly 2 and 3 had a lot of missions, but they were short, so most of your game time was just running from one place to another. This game is a little bit shorter than Sly 2 because they streamlined the gameplay. After a mission is completed, you're automatically taken back to the safe house.
It really was annoying to take a 2-minute trip from one side of the stage to the other, do a 30-second mission, and then take that same 2-minute trip back.
And speaking of missions, Sly gets the majority of them once again and is not just a baton passer. Even when the mission has you take control of another character, Sly gets at least 50% of that mission. Someone had told me that Sly's ancestors were just reskins of Sly, and I'm okay with that because they all play like Sly with the exception of one. If the character looks like Sly and plays like Sly, then it's Sly. I see no reason to complain there. Bentley has quite a few missions as well, but nowhere near the amount of the Cooper characters. Murray doesn't have that many missions and his are the shortest. Carmelita comes in as a playable character, but mostly just tags along on a few missions.
And I get why they did that. Carmelita is the most overpowered character in this game. She's just as fast and agile as Sly, she has a long-range weapon, and the charge shot kills enemies in one hit. Like I said, overpowered.
The game is pretty easy as it is, but Carmelita just breaks it. In fact, all the other characters can be pretty overpowered as you get a lot of coins to buy their upgrades. Like getting Sly's move while pickpocketing skill, you will be rolling in money. And you can just ransack areas and grab thousands of coins with no issue. Clue bottles return, allowing you to unlock the safe in each world. Treasure makes a return but are harder to get as they all have a time limit to return them to the safe house, and the time limits are considerably shorter, maybe 30 seconds at the most. In the previous Sly games, only a few treasures had time limits, and even if they did, you could take your time. And finally, a new collectible in the form of Sly masks are hidden through the levels and missions and are hidden better than the clue bottles.
If you're the completionist type, you're going to have your work cut out for you, because some of these trophies are a real challenge to get. But if you stick with it, your hard work is going to be paid off because you'll be able to get a secret ending after the credits.
All the characters control just as well as they did in the previous games. While I didn't mention it while talking about the previous ones, the characters feel like they have weight. In this one, however, the characters feel heavier. I guess it gives a more realistic feel, but Sly, his ancestors, and Carmelita are characters that are supposed to be light on their feet, so to have them feel so heavy is a bit odd. Sly and Bentley control the same as they did in the previous games, but Murray is different. He's still the brawler, but he lacks his uppercut and instead has a charge attack, and the thunderflop is jump then triangle instead of jump and square. Carmelita is improved upon from Sly 3 and controls how a character in a third-person shooter platform game should control.
The Cooper ancestors control like Sly, and they each have their own moves. Well, except for Bob. And yeah, Bob is an actual Cooper ancestor.
Ryuichi is able to leap from point to point after perching on something. Tennessee's cane is actually a gun and can shoot and enter a crackshot mode to hit multiple targets very quickly. Bob, or Caveman Cooper, can climb up certain walls. Sir Galth can shoot himself upwards after hooking onto an anchor point, and Selim Al-Kupar can run up ropes almost instantly. However, if you've kept up with the series, you'll notice an inconsistency. All the Cooper ancestors except for Bob can use the ninja spire jump and the rope walk. However, Selim and Galth should not be able to do this as they lived in years 1001 and 1301 respectively. Ryuichi Cooper wouldn't develop the ninja spire jump until the 1600s, and Tennessee wouldn't develop the rail slide and rope walk until the 1880s.
Isn't it weird that a game about time travel doesn't follow the continuity of its own series? And speaking of continuity, it's time to talk about the story, so here's your spoiler alert.
With that said, Thieves in Time takes place some point after Sly 3, although the exact time is not given. Sly had retired from thievery and was enjoying his relationship with Carmelita by faking amnesia. Bentley was working with Penelope on various projects, one of them being a time machine, but then Penelope disappeared. Bentley noticed that the pages of the Thievius Raccoonus, an ancient book of thieving secrets that the Cooper family line had created, were disappearing. So Bentley and Sly reunite with Murray, who is an undefeated champion in the Demolition Derby, to convert the Cooper van into a time machine.
It really does look like a cool time machine, but the DeLorean is still my time machine of choice.
After breaking into a museum and getting caught by Carmelita while stealing an ancient sword, they head to feudal Japan to rescue Ryuichi Cooper, a master chef who invented sushi and a ninja thief who was falsely arrested for serving bad sushi. They find out that someone called LFA, who is from Sly's time, had taken over the town. Realizing that there is someone else with a time machine, they stop LFA, but not before Ryoichi's cane is stolen. They go to the Old West to rescue Tennessee Cooper. He was framed for a bank robbery he was going to commit but was beaten to it by the new Sheriff Toothpick, who is also from Sly's time. After breaking him out and getting his cane, which is also a gun, they find that Carmelita has been kidnapped and sent back to the Old West, and Tennessee rescues her. They learn that someone called La Paradox is behind everything that's happening to the Coopers. After stopping Toothpick, Tennessee's cane is stolen and the Cooper van's brakes stop working and they're heading towards Ravine. Bentley uses a fossil necklace, tossing it into the time machine, and they're sent to an unknown location.
And this is the second Back to the Future reference that they make, the first being the spinning license plate after you complete the intro stage.
They find themselves stranded as the time machine needs to be repaired. At this point, you feel really bad for Sly as he tries to talk with Carmelita, but she is so angry with him that she won't even talk to him. Sly gave up his life of crime to be with her, so you can see the pain in his face when she ignores him, especially because he also feels bad for lying to her about having amnesia, although it's revealed that she had a feeling that Sly was faking but changed for her. Anyway, while getting parts for the time machine, they find another person from their time is there and has captured another one of Sly's ancestors. They rescue him, but his cane is stolen as well right before the fight with Grizz. This area really doesn't offer much in terms of story, as nothing really happens as the characters were sent there accidentally.
I'm going to pause right here. I was expecting something to happen that would negate Sly's existence and Carmelita would be the one to set things right, but that doesn't happen. I'm a little disappointed, but I am glad that they didn't do this time-traveling cliché.
So they travel to medieval England to rescue Sir Galeth Cooper, who has been reduced from a knight to a jester because of the Black Knight. And in a very anticlimactic reveal, the Black Knight is Penelope, and there's hints that give it away. The first being that she disappears, the second being that the story revolves around time travel, the third is the robotic guards and evidence of advanced machinery considering the time period, and finally, this is the second to last world and you have not seen her yet. It's a huge emotional shock to Bentley. She stole Bentley's time machine plans and gave them to Paradox. The reason she did this is because she feels that Sly was a bad influence on Bentley and was holding him back and robbing him of his genius, and she wanted to take over the world with Bentley. You later find out in the last world that Paradox has been sending his agents through time to create fake documents that would claim that he was descended from royalty. It's then revealed that Paradox was also from a line of thieves, and that his father was going to steal the world's largest diamond and frame Sly's father for it. However, Sly's father got there first, and Paradox's father was arrested. Paradox was unable to learn the family business and was sent to jail after a failed robbery. He got his criminal training while incarcerated and decided to get his revenge on the Coopers by capturing them and, as a final insult, steal their canes.
This is a reference to Clockwork, the villain from the first game who was a thief and jealous of the Cooper line for being better thieves than him. Also, Clockwork and Paradox are allusions to time in some manner.
Sly and Carmelita reconcile before the final battle, which is just a series of quick-time events. Paradox claims that he's the greatest thief in the world as he was able to steal the Cooper canes, while Sly calls him an idiot. Because Paradox, who was a genius art thief posing as a billionaire, had it made. But targeting Sly's ancestors caused him to blow his own cover, expose his whole operation, all because of his ego, and adds that Paradox didn't steal anything, because it was his lackeys that sold the canes, not Paradox, and says that a Cooper would never blow their own cover. Sly defeats Paradox and was going to leave him to die, but decides to save him, only to be double-crossed and stranded on Paradox's time-traveling blimp that was about to warp to an unknown location. Bentley, Murray, and Carmelita continue to search for Sly but are unable to find him, and all the bad guys are returned to their own times and put in jail, except for Toothpick, who is stranded in the Old West and is run over by a train. If you get all the trophies, you get a secret ending that shows Sly in ancient Egypt, which sets up the sequel.
The reason why I went into so much detail with this story and not the others is because not only is this the most complex story out of the Sly Cooper series, but it's also the best.
This is the best written Sly story, despite the fact that it's using one of the most cliché story elements, time travel. They make the story of time traveling feel fresh and new. It also has the funniest jokes and the most entertaining dialogue. And there's a couple of really perverted jokes that makes me wonder how they got away with an E10 rating. The overall presentation is top-notch and is something that you would expect from a AAA title. While the previous games were good, they didn't have that presentation that the Ratchet and Jack series had, like the cutscene animation, the humor, and deep stories. Sly 4 has all that presentation and polish while keeping true to the Sly series.
Sanzaro has done a fantastic job capturing the heart and soul that Sly 1 and 2 had. But how does the entire series stand up as a whole?
If you enjoy platform games regardless of the star and you haven't played the Sly Cooper series yet, then you absolutely must. If I were to do a top 10 list of the best platform games ever made, and I'm not going to, Sly would more than likely take the number 1 spot with little competition. Sly 1, while feeling a little obsolete for its time, is good. Sly 2 brought the game up to the standards of its generation and had a more involving story. Sly 3 was more of a betrayal to the series, with Sly taking the backseat to the other characters that they added. It's shorter, and it's disappointing. But thankfully it sets up for what is the best game in the series. As a whole, it's a really good series, and I'm glad to see that it's making a comeback, and I would like to see how Sly gets back to his own time. Unfortunately, the rumors for Sly 5 Master of Thieves haven't been confirmed, and the supposed leaked photo of the poster is being called fake.
I only hope that Sanzaro will continue the series with the same amount of quality and effort that they put into Sly 4, because they did a better job than Sucker Punch.